Gloria with Glory Bee Resale, and I'm here to do a what sold from December 1st to December 7th. And this is on eBay, Poshmark, and Etsy. And we'll start off right now. If you want to give me a like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Helps me out. Thanks. And the first item to sell was this Carrig Dawn Irish Fisherman Knit Cowl Neck Sweater. And this fisherman's sweater sold for $49. Cost to me on it was $6.49. Next item to sell was this king duvet cover. This was a gold stripe pattern from Bed and Bath, and this sold for $32.30. Cost to me on it was $4. Next item to sell was this Granny Core cat Christmas cardigan, and this sold for $22. Cost to me on it was $2.75. Next item to sell was this Notre Dame embroidered sweatshirt with the Fighting Irish and the shamrock, and this sold for $30. Cost to me on this was $4. I think this is the last one I have. I bought these like a year ago. I bought 3 or 4 of them for $4 a piece. And I believe this is the last one to sell. They were all different. The others I think had Fighting Irishmen on them. Next item to sell was this Ralph Lauren black dress, and this sold for $22. I've had it for a really long time, so I was willing to sell it for $22. Cost to me on it was $6. So not a great sale, but I got rid of it and I made a little money. Black is somewhat hard too to sell. It just, I don't know. It doesn't pop on screen. So I don't know what was wrong with it, but that's what I sold it for. Next item to sell was this beautiful cobalt blue pottery planter. And this I picked up at a yard sale. And it's just such a pretty color and a nice pattern on the side. This sold for $38. The cost to me on it was $1. Next item to sell was this stained glass cross with the dove on it and sun catcher, and this I sold for $29. The cost to me on it was $1. Next item to sell was this 1978 Looney Tune Porky Pig ornament, and this was still new in package. It sold for $8, which I think there was just a lot of them for sale, and that was the price, which was all right. I paid 20 cents for it, so it was still profit, but it wasn't a lot. Next item to sell, nope, don't have it there, was this vintage 60s brass sailboats that are two, and these sold for $45. The cost to me on them was $6.98. Go back here because this is on this one. And the next item to sell was this LL Bean nightgown, men's nightgown, and this sold for $33.15. Cost to me on it was $3.25. And the last thing to sell on eBay was this wooden mortar pestle. This sold for $25 and the cost to me was $3. And we'll see. I mixed this one up with an order from another platform. Um, Both of them probably about the same price. So I'm waiting for them to be switched, one sending it to the other. And hopefully that will be all taken care of this week and try not to do that again. It's a rare occasion, but I've done it once or twice in all the years. Uh, Next item to sell over on Poshmark was this vintage framed cross stitch deers, and this sold for $35, and the cost to me on it was $2. The other thing, because yes, I only sold two things on Poshmark. I just haven't been liking Poshmark at all. So I sold this pair of gold home interior wall pockets, and these sold for $31, and the cost to me on them was $2.98. Now over to Etsy, and first thing to sell was this. Actually, it's a bookstore. Yeah. First thing to sell was this vintage 50s, 60s Vancourt USA thermometer, gold, and this sold for $62.90, and the cost to me on it was $10. The next item to sell was this funky female futuristic elf with the three sunglasses, and this was a measuring cup. This was a sample that I picked up one of the times I was in Boston. It was a TJ Maxx sample. They tend to get them a lot there because that's where they're located outside of Boston. So was not really a great buy, but whatever. It was sitting around, and I said I finally get just get it listed, and it was $7.99 was the cost to me. I sold it for $24.65. So just about triple what I paid, but I don't particularly care to just be triple, as you know. But anyway, it sold quickly, so therefore it really wasn't bad. It sold quickly, I think, after I listed it. Next item, which also was a quick seller after I listed it, was this little Santa and six of his reindeer, the sleigh and six reindeer, and I think I have him shown at the wrong end of the group, but oh well. This sold for $29.75, and it sold pretty quickly, and I paid 50 cents for it, so that was a nice turnaround. And again, I thought it was still worth it with just six of the reindeer. It should have eight. And somebody else thought so too. It was a pretty quick seller. Next item was this pair of wooden Santa Claus candle holders, and these sold for $33.15, and the cost to me on them was $5.98. I really love these candle holders. The next item to sell was this Asian tea gift set, and this sold for $22, and the cost to me on it was $1. I had two of these. I sold them both. And I bought them both at a yard sale for $1 a piece. I think they came from a casino as a casino gift. Um, the next thing to sell was this Hamal Passion Leather briefcase, and this sold for $59. The cost to me on it was 25. Again, this is another thing that I've had sitting around forever because I paid too much for it, which is kind of a stupid thing to do. I I just put it up for what it goes for, maybe even a little bit less, and got my money back and some. I still made money. But again, doubling my money or a little more than doubling my money isn't what I'm in it for. But you know what? Sometimes that happens. You don't hang on to it. You just put it up, take, whatever you get your money back out of it and buy something better. Don't do what I do. Next item to sell was this handmade wood recipe box. And this sold for $29 and the cost to me on it was $2. And this was also something sitting around for a while that I was meaning. I even brought it in to list it and just didn't. And then finally I said, let me do that. And it sold pretty like within a week, I think. Sold pretty fast. The next item to sell was this salt and pepper shaker. And these sold for $39. And the cost to me on them was $2.99. Next item to sell was this Christmas wrap, and this sold for $19. It was a rubber wrap. So for $19, cost to me on it was 25 cents. Again, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, really appreciate it. Makes it worth my while. Next item to sell was this Christmas totem pole. It was a small little totem that stood I don't know, maybe 6 inches or so. 9 inches. And this the totem sold for $19 and the cost to me was $1. I had bought a bunch of things for $1 a piece at a yard sale that day, a bunch of Christmas ornaments, and it paid off. Next item to sell was this pair of gold metal sconces, candle sconces, and these sold for $59, and the cost to me on them was $4. The next item to sell was this berry branches candle holder. This sold for $27. Cost to me on it was $3. Next item to sell was this vintage mid-century decanter set, and this sold for $169. Cost to me on it was $8. Yeah, I like those sales. I know they can't all be that much. Next item to sell was this vintage Jingle Bell 9-inch Christmas wreath, and this sold for $19. Cost to me on it was 10 cents. Next item to sell was this vintage antique 1920s German silver chain link bag. This sold for $99. Cost to me on it was $25. The next item to sell was this vintage wild horses mountain scene fleece jacket, and this sold for $35, and the cost to me on it was $6.49. Next item was this duck ballad duck card box, and see in there it was for bridge cards, I would imagine, 2 decks of bridge cards. And this sold for $35. Cost to me was $8. Again, a little bit high on that, but that also sold within a week or two, so that's good. The next item to sell was this Santas of the World from Hungary. Well, this is the Hungary one. They weren't made in Hungary. And this sold for $22. Cost to me was $1. Next item to sell was this package of 1 dozen Chessie Systems Think Work Safety #2 pencils, and these were all unused. These sold for $24, and the cost to me on them was about 25 cents. Next item to sell was this Louisville, Kentucky stoneware country barn birdhouse, and this sold for $58.50, and the cost to me on it was $9.99. This did sit for a long time, but it sold, so I'm happy with it. The next one to sell was this vintage Burwood Hollywood Regency sconces, and these sold for $39. Cost to me on them was $4. Next item to sell was this vintage hot cutout wood shelf. This was a rather small wood shelf, and this sold for $37. Cost to me was $1. And I painted it white. It was just unfinished. The next item, I also had a second one, which I stained with the darker stain. And that one sold first, this one sold second, but both of them sold well. Next item was this vintage glow-in-the-dark UV rosary beads in crucifix from Italy, and this sold for $34. Yeah, they glow, kind of cool. And these sold for $24, and the cost to me on them was $1. Next item to sell was this Emerson Creek Pottery teapot, sugar and creamer, and this sold for $29, and the cost to me on it was $1.50. I also have, they're a little different on the other side. I see it somewhere. I think they were pink on one side. Yeah, there's the other side. It's so pink and blue. And I have I have 4 mugs that also match this that are still for sale. And I have a vase that will be going up that I found today. And yeah, go on that pattern. The next item to sell was this 1988 Santa Claus cloth teeth. Um, Santa with his sack. And this sold for $35. Cost me on it was $5. I have a lot of these cloth teak things too. I think I have the cloth teak manger still for sale too. If anybody's interested in the cloth teak, I have them. Next item is the um, vintage Hampton brass force door knocker, and this sold for $25, and the cost to me on it was $1. Now the cost to me on it was $2. Next item to sell was this vintage cat pottery figure. And this is the one that went to the person with the pesto, and the pesto came to her. So hopefully these get straightened out. Um, so anyway, this went for $19, and the cost to me on it was $1.99. The next item was this vintage 80s rustic wood hot cutout shelf with the sections, and this sold for $65, and the cost to me was $2. This also I stained because it was unfinished and sanded it a little. It was a good turnover. And the last thing on Etsy was this vintage 1950s, 60s Christmas card box. This right in front of this chimney, there was a space to put in all the cards. Or maybe it was right behind the Santa. There's a space to put in all your Christmas cards. And this sold for let's see, $26, and the cost to me was $4. And that is everything that I sold last week, or not last week, but on the week of December 1st to the 7th. And it was obviously a very good week that week, especially on Etsy. I was grateful for that. And like I said, Posh hasn't been doing well, but it's also too a lot of used clothes on Posh. And at Christmas time, that's not really what people are looking for. So I'll give them a little bit of leeway there. But anyway, I'm really grateful that I was able to sell what I did. It was a very busy week, and I really appreciate it. If you're doing well, or you know what you're selling, making a good sale, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And I will see you next time. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and I'll see you then.